A reporter asked Trump what should have been the easiest question in the world about his own healthcare plan, and instead of giving a clear answer, Trump completely unraveled. What happened next was awkward, revealing, and honestly hard to watch. It exposed just how unprepared he is when he's pushed even a little bit outside of his comfort zone. Stick around, because once you hear his response for yourself, it becomes painfully obvious why this moment is blowing up everywhere. And if you find this kind of breakdown helpful, make sure you like the video and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. So earlier today, Trump hosted a roundtable focused on rural healthcare. And from the start, it felt chaotic and rushed. There wasn't much substance, a lot of rambling, and eventually he wrapped the whole thing up early so he could head back to Florida. But before boarding Air Force One, he stopped to take questions from reporters. And that's where things really went off the rails. Before we get to the reporter who caught him completely off guard, let's look at what Trump was saying during the roundtable itself, because it sets the tone for everything that followed. At one point, Trump went on a bizarre rant about math and how Democrats mock him for not understanding numbers.
Proud of it, because it did. It went down either a quarter of a point or an eighth of a point, tiny. And now think of what we're doing. We're bringing medicine down by many times. Nobody's ever seen. And there are two ways of calculating. You could say 1,000%, 2,000, or you could say 90% or 80%. The Democrats want you to say 90 or 80, but there are two ways of calculating it. You understand that, Dan? And we'll take either way, it doesn't matter. But we'll be paying a tiny fraction. So that's going to go into our plan.
You can tell this really gets under his skin. He knows people make fun of him for this stuff, and instead of clarifying anything, he just doubles down and makes it even more confusing. None of that explains anything about healthcare policy, pricing structures, or how those numbers actually affect real people. It's just word salad meant to sound impressive, and honestly, that theme carries through the entire event. Then, out of nowhere, Trump shifted gears and dropped what he clearly thought was a big announcement, threatening other countries with tariffs if they don't go along with his agenda, including his ongoing obsession with Greenland.
Another, I called Germany. No, we will not do that. I said, no, we're going to put a 25% tariff, which is, by the way, about 7 times more than they would have to pay by raising their drug, like 7 times. This wasn't like a little bit more, 7 times more. And I may do that for Greenland, too. I may put a tariff on countries if they don't go along with Greenland, because we need Greenland for national security. So I may do that. I'll give you a little, I'll take you out of that. In fact, that'll end up being the story. But actually, this is a much bigger story because we're reducing healthcare by numbers that you haven't seen.
Let's pause on that for a second. He's talking about threatening allies with economic punishment over Greenland during a healthcare roundtable, as if this is all perfectly normal. That's not strategy, that's impulse. It sounds more like someone throwing out ideas to see what sticks, rather than someone outlining serious policy. And the fact that he keeps insisting this is all about healthcare savings just makes it more confusing. Then came one of the strangest moments of the entire event, when Trump explained how he personally came up with the name for his healthcare plan.
So I had Bobby and I had Oz, we had everybody in there. We had whole group of people and were trying to come up with, so we're saying, the cost reduction plan that gives you good health care. And I said, it's too long. It's not going to sell. I said, we had more plans. And they wanted to get the words cost reduction in there, Lola, especially you. They wanted cost reduction in, and then they wanted great health care in. I said, look, you can have one or the other, but it gets too long. We're talking about the name of a plan. So we got it down to 7 or 8 words, and which is far too long. Nobody can remember that much. And I said, how about just call it, because this is the great healthcare plan. Now, a great plan has to be cost-effective, otherwise it can't be a great plan. That's the way I looked at it. So we have a very glamorous name. It's called the Great Healthcare Plan, not the Unaffordable Care Act. I don't like that name. This is called officially the Great Healthcare Plan. That means low price and great healthcare. So you're going to have, at a lower price, great healthcare.
That tells you everything. The focus isn't on how the plan works, who it helps, or what problems it solves. It's about whether the name sounds good and whether people can remember it. In Trump's world, if the branding is strong enough, the details don't matter. And that mindset is exactly why things fall apart the moment someone asks a real question. After that, Trump opened the floor to reporters, and one of the first questions led to another uncomfortable moment when he was asked about accepting someone else's Nobel Peace Prize medal.
Yesterday you accepted Maria Machado's Nobel Prize medal. What do you intend to do with it, and why would you want someone else's Nobel Prize?
Well, she offered it to me. I thought it was very nice. She said, you know, you've ended 8 wars, and nobody deserves this prize more than in history than you do. And I thought it was a very nice gesture. And by the way, I think she's a very fine woman, and we'll be talking again. Instead of just getting down to business, they ended up being nice. So I remember that. But I'll tell you, I had a great meeting yesterday by a person who I have a lot of respect for, and she has respect, obviously, for me and our country. And she gave me her Nobel Prize. But I'll tell you what, I got to know her. I never met her before, and I was very, very impressed. She's this is a fine woman.
That response somehow manages to be both confusing and revealing at the same time. There's no reflection, no hesitation, just total comfort taking credit for something he didn't earn and acting like that's perfectly normal. It's all about praise, admiration, and attention. And if you thought that was the peak, it wasn't. Trump was then asked whether he would consider leaving NATO if they didn't support him on Greenland.
NATO, if it doesn't help you acquire Greenland, if it doesn't lead the way.
Well, we're going to see. NATO has been dealing with us on Greenland. We need Greenland for national security very badly. If we don't have it, we have a big hole in national security, especially when it comes to what we're doing in terms of the Golden Dome and all of the other things. We have a lot of investments in military. We have got the strongest military in the world, and it's only getting stronger. And you saw that with Venezuela. You saw that with the attack on Iran, with the knocking out their nuclear capability potentially. So yeah, we're talking to NATO.
Mr. President, you commit to not militarily engage NATO partners.
I don't talk about that.
That's an extraordinary thing to casually suggest. Walking away from a major global alliance over a personal fixation is not leadership. It's recklessness. And after all of this chaos, rambling, and deflection, we finally arrive at the moment that really matters. A reporter asked a straightforward, basic question that any president pushing a healthcare plan should be able to answer without hesitation. How will this plan affect Americans' health insurance premiums?
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you explain how you view, your great healthcare plan will impact Americans' health insurance premiums?
It's going to be it is a tremendous plan. It's called the Great Healthcare Plan. And we're going to get tremendous reductions, as you know, through, if you look at medicines and prescription drugs, they're going to come down by numbers that have never been seen before. And we're doing that by most favored nations and other nations. Whoever pays the lowest in the world, that's what we're going to pay. Right now, we're paying sometimes 10 times higher than other nations. So we have favored nations. That's been approved. Other nations have, for the most part, agreed to it. And they had no choice, otherwise we were going to put tariffs on them.
President
The
Machado said
healthcare plan that we're
absolutely.
coming, the money's going to be paid directly to the people. So it goes directly, not to the companies, not to the insurance companies. It's going to go directly to the people, and the people are going to buy their own health care. They'll get much better.
And there it is. Lots of big words, lots of repetition, but no real answer. He never actually explains how premiums change, how much people would receive, or what happens when costs rise. It's vague on purpose. Saying money will go directly to people sounds nice, but without details, it means nothing. Healthcare isn't like shopping for a phone or a car. When emergencies happen, people don't get to compare prices or negotiate, and Trump never addresses that reality. What he's describing shifts responsibility and risk onto everyday Americans without explaining how they're supposed to manage it. This moment perfectly sums up the entire event. When faced with a simple question, Trump couldn't explain his own plan. And that's the real story here. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.